When we think about the death of a democracy, we usually imagine a cinematic spectacle. We picture military coups, violent revolutions, and tanks rolling through the Capitol streets. But according to Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Anne Applebaum, that Hollywood image is outdated. In the modern world, autocracies begin quietly. They are led by legitimately elected officials who take apart the state from the inside. A stable democracy relies on neutral institutions to survive. These include independent courts, an impartial electoral commission, a free press, and a meritocratic civil service. Dismantling these independent bodies is the true first step of a democratic collapse. The pioneer of this modern playbook is Hungary's Viktor Orbán. He won a legitimate election by a massive margin, but once in office, he spent years slowly capturing the state by neutralizing those independent institutions. Waiting for a violent military takeover makes us blind to the legal, quiet dismantling happening right in front of us. The architects of modern democracy understood this vulnerability. When the founders of the United States drafted their new government, they studied the fall of the Roman Republic to Julius Caesar. They knew that a slide into autocracy was a constant historical threat. This chart of the Constitution shows a system of checks and balances engineered to prevent that kind of internal collapse. It splits power between judicial, legislative, and executive branches to ward off the impulse toward absolute rule. Modern complacency has replaced this ancient caution with the belief in historical inevitability, the assumption that our democratic systems are simply too established, too wealthy, and too modern to ever fail. Treating democracy as a permanent, unbreakable state is a major vulnerability. When citizens stop feeling the need to actively defend the system, they leave the door wide open for autocrats to walk right in. To pull off this quiet hijack, modern autocrats follow a precise playbook. The overarching goal is a shift from the rule of law, where rules apply equally to everyone, to rule by law, where the leader dictates what the law is. Tactic 1 is the weaponization of corruption. The leader uses the legal system and the Department of Justice to protect party loyalists, while actively looking for ways to prosecute political enemies. This map of Maryland's 3rd Congressional District illustrates Tactic 2, the structural manipulation of elections. By gerrymandering borders, politicians ensure only one party can win. This tactic often includes restrictive voter ID requirements designed to disqualify targeted demographics from casting a ballot. Tactic 3 targets personnel. The neutral civil servants who manage road systems or air pollution are fired. In their place, the government installs loyalists whose primary qualification is fealty to the ruling party. Tactic 4 is the control of information. Modern leaders pressure sympathetic business elites to purchase independent media networks and alter the narratives from the top down. Tactic 5 is the monopolization of violence. The state creates militarized paramilitary forces that operate in unmarked cars and combat uniforms, bypassing local police accountability. These 5 tactics do not destroy the government, they reprogram it to serve a single party at the expense of the citizens. This breakdown pulls the world's most powerful corporate leaders into the fray, forcing them to make a definitive choice. Tech executives who once warned the public about dictatorial behavior are now publicly flattering and supporting those same politicians. The motivation is transactional. In an environment where the government dictates which companies get contracts and which face brutal regulatory scrutiny, CEOs are trapped in a short-sighted game of status. It quickly becomes a pay-to-play dynamic. These leaders donate to campaigns or shield politicians on their platforms because they fear losing ground to their direct industry competitors. But there is a fatal flaw in this logic. By enabling the destruction of the neutral legal system to protect their immediate wealth, these elites are dismantling the framework that guarantees their safety. When the rules change entirely, no amount of money protects you from the state. This domestic decay does not happen in a vacuum. When a leading democracy becomes legally and politically unstable, its global allies are forced to reconsider their own survival. We're seeing a wave of global hedging. Traditional allies are actively making backup plans, viewing the epicenter of democracy as a volatile anchor. Canada, France, and Germany are seeking independent trade routes and security agreements to bypass an erratic United States. When an ally begins to act as an unstable power, even the strongest security bonds begin to fray. In January, the Danish government was forced into a traumatic logistical exercise after the US president hinted at an annexation of Greenland. This forced a loyal partner to actually game out the mechanics of a defensive war, discussing whether to disable their own airports or even fire on American aircraft to protect their sovereignty. An internal political crisis creates external shockwaves. This decay fractures the post-war world order, leaving democratic nations isolated and vulnerable. A slide into an autocratic gray zone is not predetermined by the laws of history. We are not trapped on a fixed path downward, but if we passively wait for tech billionaires to step up or rely on the illusion of progress to save us, the system will be lost.
Maintaining a democracy is exhausting. It demands relentless, active civic participation, a commitment to local elections, and a refusal to normalize corruption. If we sit back and wait for the tanks to roll into the streets before we notice our democracy is in danger,